whoop, careful. And lean it. It needs to be like 45 degrees relative to the floor, like the roof of a house. There you go. Can you roll the focus like 1/3 of the way back? Put it on the fur logo on the side. Yeah, there you go. All right, so you see how the reflection's starting to form, but back here it's not complete. So go around and approach the car directly if you can. Just go straight. There's a little lampstand in the way, or a C-stand in the way. Yeah, just pass it by. Okay, that's good. Let's see and lean it toward the top of the car some more. That's good. And then let's say we put it there. Okay? So somebody has to help out with that. Notice that if we put it all on the stands and you're pushing stands around on the floor, it just takes forever. And quite often you tear the beadboard apart. So I actually have 1 or 2 people hold it and fish around for the best spot, and then now they know where it is, so we'll put it there again. But if you put it in the stands first, it becomes counterproductive. Now, of course, when we're doing those giant bounce flats, it moves much more slowly. But they're running the chain motor out on one and tightening the other one to move it around.
And you're always using muslin when you're doing the big one?
Muslin, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's the only stuff we can get that's that big. Only material we can get that is that big. Whoops.
We're gonna have to start from 0 again, though.
Okay, well, you're close. Okay, well, as soon as you get it in, then we need to do the incline like a roof of a house.
Right.
Once you get it in there. Yeah, okay, hoop. And now lay it, incline it out so it's like the roof of a house. Okay, hold it. Yeah, yes. And then the only thing that's happening is one corner of it in the back is slightly in frame, and the solution is in the plane, just move this way. Just literally imagine you stay in the same plane and go a little bit. Okay, that's good. We can take care of that with some tape. Yeah, that's good enough. All right, so now what we need to do is twist the lights so that they're aligned with the bottom of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, you have to maybe get rid of the ground row and then twist the lights. Now, you guys remember when you were in film school, your instructor probably talked about the whole square of the distance thing, where you want to put your key light as far away from the set as you possibly can, so as the actor walks around the room, they don't get brighter and darker. Because when you get closer to the light, it gets brighter, when you get farther from the light, it gets darker. I'm using the opposite of that. I want this to be gradated. I want it to be bright at the bottom and dark at the top, because that's what happens when the sun goes over the hill. The horizon's very bright, but overhead it's darker. And the same thing with the other side, right? It's hazy on the bottom and it gets darker as it goes to the top. So I'm taking advantage of the inverse square law, but using it backwards. I want it to be brighter at the bottom. So that's why the lights are very close to the bottom. And then if you can actually raise it up a little bit so they can even get closer to the bottom. Whoop, careful. And if you need to set it on apple boxes or whatever, doesn't matter, however it's going to work. Yeah, anybody wants to pitch in and help be gripping electric, just fine. Yeah, that's good. And then drag it toward you. So it's,
You mean it was down first?
yeah, underneath the foam cord, the beadboard.
Further back?
But you can already see how this gradation is giving shape to the car. Oh, yeah, be careful, don't move that too much, because it's set very carefully.
Moving back to the
Yeah, and then rotate them so they're in line with the bottom edge. There you go. Yes, okay, that's working.
About still okay?
Yeah, that looks pretty
Thank
good.
you.
Give it in frame.
Yes.
Easy.
All right. So now let's turn on the lights on the other side. This is running at 50% over here.
50.
Yeah, do like 25% on the left. And then we'll hold in the other piece of beadboard. Oh, wait a minute. We ended up with a stand in the shop. Is that stand working?
This one here?
Yeah,
Which one?
the one on the right.
This one here?
It's not working?
It is,
Oh.
but we can lose it.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. Just
Yeah.
kind of get rid of it for now. Just set the thing on the floor and we'll get to it somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now take the other piece of beadboard and like the roof of a house, just touch it to the other one. I wouldn't even get in the stands yet. Let's just see what we're, okay, beginning to happen. Now, the seam needs to be, it needs to be below. In other words, it has to, yeah, oh, yeah, go like that. Yeah, that's it. Now just hold it there for a sec. Whoop. It'll stay. This is a reminder to myself to start lighting the car. Okay. Well, sometimes I talk too long and I don't have time. All right. So, yeah, just hold that there for a second. Let me find my flashlight. Now, sometimes when you're doing this, the bounce sources are really large, and you see you have an issue. My issue is this area here needs to be filled in, right? And imagine that thing is the size of a building, and it takes like 15, 20 minutes to move it. And you want to figure out which edge we need to move. So what I'll do is I'll have the grips on a condor, or sometimes take a source 4, turn off all the lights, and shine the source 4 at the edge. So I'll move it along and see which edge we need to move. Is it this edge? You see this? That tells me it's this edge I need to move, right? So we're going to lower this down. See what's happening? But I discovered which edge I needed to move by doing this, right? So it saved a lot of time by doing it. Because imagine this thing's the size of a building, right? Yeah, so that's where it needs to be. Get it in the stand and then we'll adjust it. So do you see what I'm doing a little bit at a time, building the whole thing? Then while they're getting that ready, clearly this is a Ferrari, and everybody recognizes it. Unfortunately, a lot of cars, if you don't see the logo or the badging, what we call, they all look the same. So at the end of the day, it's very important that the badging, wherever it is on the car, is visible in the finished commercial, because they're paying for the commercial, and they, you know, Toyota and Honda, everybody makes cars that are sort of all the same, same sort of shape. Okay, and then, yeah, sorry, it's like wrestling. All right, so this now needs to come this way if you can. Yeah, okay. 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 Yeah, they need to touch all the way along, if you can. Yeah, help out if you want to. I'll be proud. I'm going to lay it underneath here. And then that end, we know needs to be lower. Yeah, there you go. And then look at the monitor again. Oh, yeah, whoa. Yeah, right there. Right there. Now, it's in the frame, but either in post-production or with the magic of a flag, we're going to make it go away. But it needs to be there, right? Because if it's too high, this doesn't fill it. Yeah, that's a good play right there if it'll stay. Oh no, you're going to take it away? What happened?
In the wrong hole.
No, it's perfect. We're going backwards. Okay. More perfect.
Much better. Like that?
Yeah. There you go. Except the back edge down more toward the floor. Twist it down more. Whoop. Keep it going. Yeah, there you go. Let it settle. It's pretty close. So, lock it. Did it settle?
All nailed down.
Perfect. Okay. Now what we need to do is bring in our low row of hills. So somebody hold each end of this tube here. Yeah, you can do this end, and somebody grab the other end. And just gently start to raise it up. Just come up slowly. Keep coming. Now, the end and back, can you go camera right? Because you're in frame. Look careful. Take your time. All right. So, hold it still. Okay, lower the front edge, the head near me down a little bit. Oop, I lied. Okay, come up in the back a little bit. Yeah, right about there. Now, this being a model car, this is pretty, what would you say, bumpy? But a real car wouldn't be that way. Okay, so let's get it in the stands right there. So hold it still while somebody else goes and sets the stands. So you see what I've done here? This is now the low row of hills to the right, right? And then this is the gradated sunlight, okay? And then over here is the hills off to the east. We haven't put the hill in yet. Okay, that's set?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Let's do the ground grow on the other side. It's already, I think it might already be in a good spot. Let's leave it alone. Okay, now the thing that we need is the Ferrari logo in front is not visible. So I'm gonna need a small piece of white poly.
Coming.
Thanks. Oh, here it is.
Good here.
So where do we think that needs to be? Who would you guess? Or you already know?
Above?
We need to, angle of incidence equals angle of reflection, so it needs to be over here on the left. So sneak, maybe walk on the other side of the light. Too careful. I remember when we were doing product shot, and you're setting like 100 stands, and somebody new walks on set. Somebody immediately tells them, please don't kick a stand. Okay, Warwick, down a little bit, and maybe, where are you? Go toward the back a little bit. Whoa, whoa, right there. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, let's call it that. Okay, so now I can see the little prancing horse, right? It's a detail. All right. So,
Just for a second.
Okay, go ahead. All right. Okay, let's see if it, as soon as it settles. Oop.
Yeah.
Warwick in a previous life was a grip. He now represents Fisher Dolly in all of Europe, but he still knows how to grip. Once a grip, always a grip.
Still work.
There you go. Good.
Something like that?
Yeah, that's perfect. Really good. All right. The other thing we need to do now is over here, you remember it was sunset, and over here it was eastern cool sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the lamps on the right become warmer. So right now they're 44?
34.
34. They're at 34 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would drive them even warmer.
Should we go 27?
Perfect. And then on the left, make them cooler by a considerable amount.
Okay, let's go, say like 500, 600.
Yeah, you at 6,000 now?
500, 600.
Yeah, go to 6,000. Now what's happening is a lot of this light is banging into that one. So let's see what's going on here. Can these lights go more? See, these lights are hardly lighting this at all. So they need to come this way a little bit if you can.
Where do you wanna go?
Toward the car.
Carla.
Yeah, we can do this.
Yeah, be careful, because everything else is pretty good.
No, we're clear to go ahead.
See, what's happening is the lights over here are bouncing into that, and they'll still be bouncing in, but we can make this a little cooler. Here,
And
just-
would you not come down in intensity on the bounce?
Yeah. Yeah. Here? Yeah. Because it's really close to the lights. Yeah, that's helping, guys. If you can go more, that'd be great, but I can see that it is happening. The bottom part of it's cooler. So you're beginning to see cooler light here. All right, Warwick, as soon as you're done doing that.
Good?
Yeah, yeah, so now you can see cool light in the shape here, which is great. Then, oh, as soon as work's done. If you have to, just set it on a box or something on the part that's sagging.
We have.
There you go. Okay, good. Warwick, this is overdone considerably. Can you put it actually in front of the, just take it out of the stand for a second and put it in front of the ground vertically. So it's not reflecting the lights below it, but the lights from the other side. Sure. Try that. Yeah, there you go. Go that way a little bit more. Yeah,
Start killing it there.
yeah, still too bright though. I would go that way and then angle it so it's picking up more of the light from the right. There you go. In a perfect world, we'd have a tiny little light that we pump into that to make this a tiny bit brighter, right? But that's where it's going to be, okay? And then now that I see this is a little overdone, so maybe make this a little cooler. Where it's like 3,000 now? Oh, 27, yeah, go towards 3,000. Yeah, even more. Whoop, too much, split the difference.
32.
Yeah, okay, good. Now, one of the things that's happening and will happen in real life is I'm seeing the scene here between the two, right? Part of it's because they're not perfectly married up and we could spend 45 minutes trying to, but you understand. But what also will help is use dulling spray, actually on the sheet metal, to kind of blend these areas, whether it's a car or a teapot or whatever. You can actually blend this together by spraying on there. Dulling spray. There's also, in the United States, but maybe you can get it here too, in the US it's called Streaks and Tips. It's a water-soluble hair color. And you can get it in all different kinds of colors. But we use it in white and because you can actually spray it on a horizon line, just ghost it on there, and it creates the illusion that there's a soft backlight when there really isn't, right? And it's a great way that if you're struggling to get a reflection on the horizon of something, you can actually just ghost white streaks and tips on there from it. Don't spray it on hard. Have the can very, let the dust fall on there, and it totally buy an illusion that it's a reflection, not paint. Right? All right, so we're very, very close. If I were to do anything, I'd maybe brighten this up a tiny bit with an individual little tiny light there. If this were a real car, they'd want to see the tread of the tires more. And the way you do that was a lamp way out here, source 4, lighting the tire tread, and then a flag very close to the car, keeping that light from reflecting in the sheet metal.
What surface do you usually ask for on the ground?
Well, it depends. We do all different kinds of things. Sometimes it's smooth, like one thing that we've learned that works really well that looks like asphalt is black obsidian sandblast sand. You can get, and it's really cheap, it comes in bags and they use it for sandblasting, and it comes from, in English they call it clinkers, when they are burning, making steel. The slag that comes off quite often is black, and it's like a waste product, but they'll grind it up and sell it for sandblasting because the particles are really sharp, and it's really good for like sandblasting metal. You can buy bags of it for really cheap, and when you spread it on the ground, it looks like perfect asphalt. Now, one of the challenges is every time somebody walks in there, you have the footprints, so you have to like sweep it off. But we use it outdoors too. Sometimes we find the perfect location and it's a turnout that's not paved. And some car manufacturers don't ever want to see their car on gravel or dirt if it's a road car, right? And they'll say, we love the location, but it's not paved, so you can't shoot there. Well, we'll then bring bags of this stuff and spread it out on the ground. And, you know, quite often we're in a natural park or something like that, and the rangers sometimes make us take it away, but other times they said it's natural stone, so it doesn't matter, just push it over the edge, because it doesn't dissolve, right? The only danger on set is it's dusty too, so you want to not breathe it in. But that's one surface we do. Sometimes we've done like mirrored formica, for one thing, to make the floor shiny, and many times it's merely painted, you know, and painted to look gray, or you don't want to draw attention to it, you know, so quite often it's just like a medium or dark gray. Yeah. Anybody have any questions about this? Yes, ma'am. Oh no, go ahead. I don't even know if the viewfinder's on there. Oh yeah, it is. Okay. So now the remaining problem that we haven't solved yet is the car is sharp here and soft there. What stock are we at? T8?
Yeah.
All right. So I would say we've got to get to 11. So go ahead and go to 11. Where are you now? Are you at 11 now?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're a little underexposed. So this camera, I think you can quite easily go to like 1600 without any problem. All right, so let's dial the ISO to 1600.
We're probably also not full up on the tubes.
Oh, that's true too. What levels are we on the tubes?
Tubes, they are 50%.
And 25%.
25, yeah.
Oh yeah, so go 150.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. I forgot we went all the way up. So that may solve our problem of exposure. Somebody's jumping around on the camera. Yeah, okay. So I think we're back. Thank you for reminding me that. I forgot that we started out. So it looks like we're carrying focus all the way back. Maybe stop down another half stop. All right, yeah, so I'm carrying focus from here to here. We actually have the focus set right about here, you know, the old 1/3, 2/3 rule.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is looking good. Now everybody's take as many pictures as you want. None of this is secret. The whole point of this was so you guys, it took me and my grip and electrical gaffing team 30 years to develop this. Trying different things. And now you guys know how to do it, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're shooting cars or teapots or doing a drama with a chrome-plated gun, you're gonna run into something that is highly reflective, and without this knowledge, you would panic because lighting is really challenging, and now you're gonna instantly know what to do, right? So, somebody has questions? Thank you. So please, you know, take as many photographs of the setup as you want. I think there's a card in the camera, and I think Dave Stubb, who's a colleague of mine, needed some Alexa footage. So roll a little bit of this, and don't touch the dolly while we're doing it. Who has control of? Yeah, we're gonna roll a little bit of this, so don't walk in the background. Camera's rolling, so don't walk in the background. Don't bump the dolly, and then we'll just need to get this to stop somehow.
Let's just record when within the.
Okay. All right.
So how would you go about breaking out the tags, or would that completely follow?
Oh, well, like I said, out here, a good distance away, I'd be using source 4 legal light, sending a strong beam of light into the tire tread, this direction to see the tire tread, and then very close to the edge of frame, you set a flag to keep it from lighting, being seen by the sheet metal. The only other thing we didn't remove was this would be trivial to do in post-production. All right. We could set a flag too. So we ended up at 1600 ISO.
No, we are still at
You still say at 800? Oh, okay, great.
just like.
Yeah, well, that's when the camera's quietest. All right, we're still rolling. Got somebody walking through the background. Yeah. Or a big face. Well, we know who it is too. Okay, we should probably have like 30 seconds by now or something. Right? Okay, good. Any questions about anything that we've talked about, shown, demonstrated? Yes, sir.
So a lot of these rely on reflections, and I'm just wondering if a car has a semi-matte finish or like a full matte finish, how do you go about
Then you
that?
can light it directly. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to remember the name of the television show. There was a television show in America that the car could self-drive. What was the name of the show?
Knight Rider.
What?
Knight Rider?
Knight Rider. Yes, they painted that car matte because they're doing a TV show. They just need to go, 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 go. They painted the car matte so they would never see reflections of people or equipment in the car, and they could just light it directly. So if you have a matte car, which is only becoming a trend now, you can cheat and you have to do this. As a matter of fact, remember the movie called Cars, right? And they did Cars 1 and 2, and then they did 3. And after, if you'll notice Cars 1 and 2, the cars are matte. And because they were very challenged by how do you do this, they actually had me come up, and it was a room of like 60 of their artists, and I did this exact same demonstration, and then Cars 3 are shiny cars. Because they used this technique to light the car. So if you see the 3 movies, they moved away, it just reminded me, they were cheating because they couldn't figure out how to light the cars. They just painted them matte in the CG world, and then they wanted to do shiny cars. And I went up, and it was a little nerve-wracking. You have like 40 of the best digital artists in the world looking at what you're doing. And then they did shiny cars. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
What kind of workaround do you have for cars that are dull or with a carbon surface for how you would want to try and
Make them look better?
Yeah.
In my opinion, I always prefer shinier cars. Just so you know, the most difficult color to do well is black. Yeah, it sounds like you've had this experience. You know, I'll tell you a funny story. When I did my very, very first car commercial, I called up my mentor, Ron Dexter. I got booked on this car commercial, and he said, "What's the color of the car?" And I said, "It's white." And he said, "Can you get any other color?" And I said, "No, this particular special model car is only sold in white." He says, "Okay, you're screwed." He said, "The car will always look like a white blob, and you have nothing you can do about it." And I said, "Oh my God, I can't let this be a failure. It's my first." He gave me some really brilliant advice. He said, "Find locations that are architecturally spectacular, and drive your white car through there, and everybody will be looking at the architecture, and nobody will notice that the car is this white blob." And he was absolutely right. You know, we found some really cool Art Deco buildings and drove underneath the legendary 6th Street Bridge in the LA River and all that kind of stuff. And everybody thought the car commercial was great, even though the car looked like a white blob. So white's the most challenging because the reflections are white. Silver is the easiest in terms of if you're going to do a car commercial for the first time, if they'll let you shoot a silver car, use a silver car because it looks good in sunlight, it looks good in soft light. It's really easy to light. Black is the most difficult. You'll see every mistake you make in a black car. And luckily for us, very rarely do we shoot black cars, only like high-end luxury cars like the Lexus LS series was always black. Yes, sir.
You've got multiple different frequencies of scanning on screens, the LCDs, on the consoles, daylight running lights, and things along those
How do you
lines.
solve that?
Yeah. procedure.
You know how for generations, people have been trying to figure out how to keep the wagon wheels from going backwards. A friend of mine who's a mathematician actually figured out how to do it, and he invented a piece of software. It's now sold, well, you can find it on the RealD website, and it's called TrueMotion. And how you do it is, all these cameras will go 120 frames per second. And so you shoot 120 frames per second, even though your final result's going to be 24 or 25. You shoot 120 frames per second with the shutter angle set at 360 or as close to it as you can get. So the camera's recording all the information all the time, right? And then in post-production, you can pick the shutter angle and your frame rate. So you pick either 24 or 25, and then solve your flicker problems. Another problem that it solves, if you're doing that classic paparazzi scene, where the superstar is coming out of the limousine going into the cinema, and the art director has everybody shooting flashes. Well, these days they're not flash bulbs anymore, which had a really long duration. They're strobes, right? And they've typically given them all little happy snap cameras, and they're just firing their strobe, which is exposed like 1/8 or 1/4 or a frame. If you do this, it'll just smooth all that out, because you're actually integrating 12 frames on either side to make one frame within that software.
If you do the TrueMotion route, do you have to find out from the engineers as to what frequency certain things are?
No.
Because sometimes you have multiple
I know,
frequencies
it's
that
a nightmare.
mathematically don't, yeah.
It'll solve those problems. If anything, you might end up windowing one and windowing two and doing two solutions and then blending them together, tracking them together with a window. But you can solve the flicker problem that way. Yeah.
Sometimes it changes significantly if you change the angle.
Oh, yeah, the car designers didn't talk to us when they did this. What he's talking about is the instrument panels on cars now are digital LCD screens, but some of them are running at different frequencies, like right in front of the driver will be running at one frequency, and then what's in front of, doing all the temperature controls and all that is a different frequency. And you can solve one, but you can't solve the other. But this TrueMotion thing solves that problem for you. And you can actually ramp within TrueMotion as well. You don't have to ramp while you're shooting, you can ramp later, which is great because, ramping when you're shooting, it's like you do it and it's baked in. So this way you can have the ramp happen when you want in post. It's a good question. Yeah, the company's called TrueMotion. The app is called TrueMotion. It's on the RealD website. The other thing I wanted to show you is this particular device is an optical viewfinder. Because what happens is many times you're scouting with the director and you finish shooting upstairs or downstairs or something like that, and you're down there standing there with the director, and you can't wait for the camera to show up to start blocking the scene. So this thing has no batteries in it. It has a viewfinder, a ground glass in it, like a cinema camera, film camera would have, interchangeable lenses, PL or LPL, and it allows you and the director to start to line up the next shot while the camera is traveling there, or you can even take it along on scouts. And the lens mount's interchangeable between PL and LPL. But the beauty of this is, if you look in there, the ground glass markings are actually on a piece of acetate. Because you guys have all been on these shows where they decide exactly what frame line markings, maybe the evening before. They've now held the visual effects supervisor's feet to the fire because they don't want to make a decision. You're shooting tomorrow morning, they finally call them up and say, listen, you have to tell us exactly what frame lines you want for our different deliverables. And they'll tell you, well, this, you can use an app that runs on a Mac and define the frame lines and print it on an office laser printer. And you cut it out and you slide it in through a little slot here in the side. So it's an incredibly useful tool because now the frame lines are accurate. What the lens sees is what you see, depth of field, everything, any distortion. And then you and the director, or if you're doing a commercial agency, can get ahead of the camera. It can save, if you can save 10 minutes per setup, that can be 2 hours in a day. And a crew costs $100,000 an hour. So it's an incredibly useful tool made by these guys.
I mean,
Optical
Artemis
Makers.
is also getting really accurate nowadays. So.
Say it again?
Artemis.
Oh yeah, well, it's very interesting.
I'm always testing ahead of
I know. I was talking to the Auto Nimitz is a huge rental company in Los Angeles. And they say that these go out far more than all the various digital viewfinders. And I said, why? And he said, well, we've talked to the cinematographers, and he says it's the only time the cinematographer's alone with the image. Think about that. Because if you're pushing the camera around on the floor and it's connected to a monitor, you've got 30 people all commenting, right? But if you're looking through this and the director's standing beside you, it's between you and them, right? And they use it for the privacy of thinking, is the shot here or is it there? Is it here or is it there, right? And it allows them to be alone with the image, which is the only time during the day they are, really. So they prefer this. Interesting, because there's no batteries, there's no video tap, there's no nothing.
I mean, if I'm taking the shot on Artemis on my iPad, and then I can choose to show it to the director or not.
I see what you're saying. And also on Scout, you can take images with Artemis and save them for later. too.
Also, sometimes the director is not
Yeah.
quite as
Oh.
nimble.
Yeah, there is that. Oh, and then there's anamorphic modules that go in the top for 1.4, 1.5 or 2x that go in here for that. But anyway, a really useful tool.
Bill, when it comes to match moving and previs,
Yes.
I know it varies from VFX supervisor to one another in terms of how much time, if you have any prep. Do you have a particular rule which you personally follow with?
You're talking about if somebody's doing the previs. I did a lot of motion control for car commercials, and usually it was the director working with the post-production people doing the previs. And I quite often didn't get involved with that because basically I had to wait until they finished all of that, and then I would look at their previs and say, okay, here's how we're going to design the lighting around it, rather than getting ahead of it. You know what I mean? Because I get in the middle of it and then they change it. Right? So I'd leave that, you know, at the end of the day, it's her or his show, the director. You know, let them design the shots they want, and then we do what they want. You know, we're working for them.
Say, for example, if you ever have a situation where it's not a controlled environment, you're on location, would you get involved in that?
Yeah, locations get to be a nightmare. You're talking about like doing motion control on location?
With previs?
I've done it.
Yeah.
What happens is the sun keeps moving. And quite often you're doing, like when we shoot motion control with basically a robotic thing that's moving the camera, quite often the camera's moving more slowly than it will appear later when you speed it up, you know, back to 24 frames per second. Because quite often the rig physically can't move that fast, but you also can't have the sun shadows moving in the background. And then you're typically doing, the reason you're doing is you're doing multiple passes. And so you can't have the light bouncing around. So I've done it, it's challenging. You know what I'm saying? And you just have to be aware that most of the motion control work I've done is on stage. You know, in a natural location, the sun just keeps moving. I once had an argument with the director. He swore to me that the sun went faster near the horizon than it did overhead. It's just an illusion, right? But we had this argument. So I'm saying, okay, so it's sunset here, but in Hawaii, it's the middle of the day. So is the sun moving fast for you and not for them? And he went, anyway, it was a pointless argument. Anyway, other questions about what we're doing here? Does everybody please take all the photographs you want? This is not a secret thing. It's one of the aspects of being invited to be a member of the ASC is you have to demonstrate that you're teaching the next generation of cinematographers. You won't even be considered for membership unless you're already doing that, right? So it's part of our mission to travel and show people how to do what, this is my specialty, you know, what I do. Other people, like if you're doing Roger Deakins, it's going to be photographing people. You know, if you do his thing. By the way, I did get interviewed by Roger Deakins. Scariest thing I've ever done. I mean, here's this master cinematographer. But we actually had a really great time. And if you have a chance, listen to it, because I talk about my career from the very beginning all the way through the various stages. More time than, I mean, it was like a 2-hour interview. More time than I could talk right now, but a lot of really interesting things happened along the way. Yes, sir.
Same last question, probably virtual production. You found of it?
Sure. Yeah, because you're talking about AI now,
Well,
which is a
something
whole
like
another
that.
ball of
Yeah.
wax.
WP stages.
Yeah,
Virtual
sure.
production.
Well, I mean, basically, that commercial of the Lincoln Continental, where the car didn't exist, that's a form of virtual production, you know, but that was my lighting.
I mean, if you have, I mean, the tendency is that it has a pancake kind of flat look on the background. And,
That's
you know,
just them not knowing how to light within the computer, right?
Yeah.
Now, I've taught many computer
readers.
artists how to light. I remember that I inadvertently was part of the very first time a car was computer generated on screen. We had filmed, you remember the Dodge Viper, had a V10 engine, sports car thing? We filmed a commercial with it and had big white racing stripes on it. And they decided after the fact, after we'd already shot it, when it was a big motion control job and everything, that the car wasn't going to be delivered with racing stripes. It was going to be all red. And they tried removing the racing stripes, and it was impossible. It just looked terrible. They had the CAD model of the exterior of the car, and they said, okay, well, we'll just replicate Bill's lighting and substitute this car. But they couldn't figure it out, right? And they called me up, and I went down to the post-production facility, and I said, can you zoom out and show me where your lights are? You know, because they did know to do things like that, but they didn't know where to put them, right? And they had too many of them, and they were on all the wrong places. And I said, put them here and put them there, just like this, and said, okay, re-render that. And at that point in time, it'd take like 15 minutes to render one frame. They rendered a frame, and boom. So it's all about knowing where to put the stuff, right? So I've willingly taught people, just like the people who did Cars, you know, up at Pixar, how to do it. There's no reason to keep all this stuff secret, because eventually you guys are going to have to do this when I'm dead and gone, right? So it's good to know how to do it, right?
Because a lot of the stuff that I see within the 3D models of, say, for example, in Unreal Engine, they're all over the place. And
In
unless you
terms
get
of
involved,
lighting?
yeah,
Just people,
won't-
you know,
won't match.
individuals are controlling that.
So you have to get involved, I think, as
Yeah, yeah.
DPs. Yeah.
I've been involved in many a CG something or another. Yeah, Roger Deakins as well. You know. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What was your aha moment? Was there one?
You mean in terms of doing this?
Yeah.
Let's see. The magical thing that occurred to know how to light cars is there was, prior to me, I was a novice, barely a cinematographer, but I was a member of the union at the time, had no idea what I was doing, right? And I got called to be the standby cinematographer on the Universal Studios backlot, because the director / cameraman who'd been hired to do this commercial was not a union member. And the rules are you can't go on a union lot without having a union person for every position, right? So this person specialized in lighting cars, right? And I could have literally showed up, let the producer know I was there, and gone into my car and gone to sleep, right? But I stood there and watched the person, and they were basically making these big things that they're reflecting in the car. And I watched that, and I said, that's really interesting, because I didn't know how this guy did. And he was, at that time, the expert, right? And then fast forward 3 years later or something, the director I was working with a lot got a BMW commercial. And all of a sudden I knew how to do it. And so initially, my grip and gaffer started emulating what that person was doing, and then we just kept expanding it. I mean, they did not have gradated light reflected. It was all one brightness.
Mm-hmm.
And you still see that in car commercials and stuff where it's just all one brightness, which to me is really ugly, because to me, it's the gradated light that's the magic that
Right.
shows the shape.
Right, right.
But see, that we innovated just by comparing what was happening when we lit the car versus what was happening outside when the car was at sunset.
Right.
And then noticing why that was happening. And then I started talking to my gaffer about, hey, can we light this so it's not even the whole way? And we tried it, and we were like, oh, that was the aha moment. We said, son of a bitch. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. But it's all about, I don't know, many of you guys, I like have hundreds of photographs on my phone. I'm just walking along and I see something, some lighting thing, natural light that's happening. I'll just take a picture of it to save for later reference. And I have a feeling a lot of you guys do that too. I have hundreds of photographs of just interesting lighting that's happening, you know, in nature.
Right.
that's fun to try to replicate later.
Right. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
So right now we have a three-dimensionality on this type of way.
Yes.
What if we move the camera? Will it look the same?
It comes apart really quickly. In other words, it goes bad really quickly. So I did show in my PowerPoint that I was showing, we built a system where there was 5. Right now there's only 2. We had 5 of them, and then we blended them all together so you could actually either rotate the car or move the camera.
Okay.
So it stayed the same. In a perfect world, this would be like the inside of an igloo. Imagine that, and then it would be real easy because you don't have to blend the edges. When you have 5, you have to very carefully blend where the light goes from one flat to the other one, so that you don't see an interruption when the car rotates. But in a perfect world, you would do an igloo, but that would be really expensive. But I've been to like the Chrysler Design Studio, that's a car manufacturer in the United States. The place where they look at cars, prototypes, is a big igloo inside.
Okay.
And they do it inside because they don't want people flying overhead and taking pictures of their cars. Yeah, so it's all inside.
Yeah.
Did they sell a version of the Nissan here? What was the high-end version of the Nissan? Like Lexus has, what do they call it? Infinity. Before the Infinity car was available, they're of course preparing it in Japan at their design center, right? And I was there filming the latest Z car, 240, 250, 260, I can't remember which model, right? And they took us to the design center to see the prototype car, which we were then going to go film on the racetrack, right? So we're in this design center. The Infinity had been rumored, but it was still like a year or 2 away, right, from being released. And all these car manufacturers are psychotic about keeping secret, what the design's going to look like. Psychotic, particularly the Japanese, right? So we had finished looking, this design center is huge, right? And the hallways were big enough to drive automobiles in. They had all these rooms this big where they would work on car design. And me, the director, and the producer are being led by a couple of the Japanese clients, ultimately, in the building, right? And we, being led out of the building now, we've got cameras and all this stuff with us, right? We come around the corner, and right in front of us, being uncovered, being loaded into a truck, was the Infinity, right? We stopped, the people loading the truck stopped, and there was a frozen moment in time where everybody realized this was a major screw-up, that they had revealed this new car to a bunch of Americans who were in the automobile advertising business. The Japanese were frozen because there's this concept, I don't want to insult anybody who's Japanese is in the room, but there's this whole concept of loss of face, where if you're the person responsible for a mistake, Americans, we like, oh, okay, sorry. Them, it's like you have to go kill yourself, right? So our producer, very intelligently, turned around and started walking away. He didn't know where he was going, but he was walking away. And we all turned and followed, and then the Japanese, who were supposedly supervising us, turned and followed us, and then got ahead of us and led us out a different way. The event never happened. Our producer enabled the event to never happen. I'm sure none of those people talked about it, and certainly the Japanese that were leading us never talked about it. And of course, we never talked about it either, at least not in the presence of any Japanese. But it was a major screw-up, that they were loading it into a lorry to take it someplace, inside a covered truck. And to do it, they uncovered it so they could drive it up into the truck, and we saw it. And then like 2 years later, it finally released. But it was a funny story about secrecy. Like we quite often, all those car commercials where we saw the Honda driving around, all of that's done on closed roads with nobody around. If we see an airplane overhead, they quickly throw a cover over the car.
Really?
They're psychotic about secrecy, for next year's model. Any other questions? Yes?
Yes, my question is that if you have to shoot in the rain, or that it's raining for the car, do you usually shoot it with, in the nature, as it's naturally raining, or you use some machines?
Natural rain doesn't photograph. No. So they actually have special rain, we call it rain towers or rain makers, that literally make water droplets that big. You know, because otherwise you can't see them. And also you have to shoot them in backlight somehow. You always orient the shot, otherwise you don't see them anyway. But like regular raindrops doesn't show up on camera. So, you know, you'll see water on the car and you'll see windshield wipers. So if you're trying to create the illusion that you're filming in the rain, no matter what it is, you're hiring a crew to set up towers and spray water and water pumps and water trucks and the whole deal. Yeah, I'm sure it's the same here too. Whole visual effects crew to do that. Yeah.
I have a second question.
Sure.
That, what's your opinion or suggestion that if someone wants to start to make car commercials and shooting, just like you have been doing, how should
Shoot spec spots. You know, do it for free. Get your friends to come help you. Pick a silver car and go find a place just like this with a low hills on the right where the sun goes over the edge, and the clear sky, no telephone poles, no clutter, and then shoot. You know, practice. Take your friend's silver car and go find a place to shoot with your still camera ahead of time. Review how it looks. You know, and do it in multiple places until you feel confident. Because, you know, to go shoot digital, then all of a sudden you're spending a lot of money. You know, you have to have more people and crew and all this kind of stuff. So go practice with a still camera, parking your car in different places out in the countryside until you get what you feel looks good. That makes sense? Yes. But you have actually, you know, what comes first, the chicken and the egg? You have to spend some of your own time and your own money to make a spec spot to show a director or an agency to prove that you know how to do it. Because nobody's going to give you the chance until you've proven how you can do it. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost with anything. Right?
So it's worth to make effort with the previsualization, because we
Yes.
already started to make storyboards and previs and all the shots, and we are
For a spec spot, I think that's excessive. All you have to have is the finished spot, you know, that you can put on your website. You know, that you can link to people to come hire me. I know how to do this now.
okay. What we were making previsualization shots and storyboards, that not for still images, but for a car commercial with dynamic movements. Is it worth to spend the time, even if it's only a storyboard? And
The only time we ever did previs is if there was like heavy visual effects
Okay.
or some kind of stunt.
Okay.
But like normal car commercial, yeah, there's a storyboard, but it's very rough sketches. You know, here's the car driving over the hill, and you know, very simple,
Okay.
right? Not complicated. And I've come to learn the agency does that intentionally because they want the director, her or him, to bring their ideas to it. And if the images are too realistic, then that kind of like excludes good creative ideas that might expand upon how this might look. Right, so that's why the sketches are intentionally crude, to give more flexibility for creativity. Yeah. Anybody else? I want to thank all of you. Oh, yeah.
Thank
We
you.
have Sarah
Wow.
Jones here before we get out of here. But thank you all very,
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
It was an honor to come here.
Thank you.
Stephen was our sound guy. Our projections guy is gone, but thank you guys. We appreciate it. All right. So let me grab my Ferrari. Oh, everybody wants to look at this. Take a look. Oh, yeah. You don't? You do?